history. Some of the characters we still read about today were created as early as the 1930s, which is the same time this Twinkie was made. Much like the Twinkie, these characters are still great and tasty. I'm Nick in New York.
And I'm Jamie in LA. We've got Jackie Estrada, Will Eisner, and Stanley, along with a look at and in-depth analysis of the Golden and Silver Age comic characters.
And I'm Phil at the first annual Fantastic Pulp and Paper Show here in Toronto. And this reminds me of how a comic should be. Back in the day, we had to make our own comic, draw our own comic, and then we'd climb up a big hill to deliver the comic, because back in my day, we...
Awards are the equivalent to the Academy Awards, only with comic books, not film. Phil interviewed Jackie Estrada, one of the head honchos of the Eisner Awards. Jackie Estrada is not to be confused with that guy from Chips.
I'm Jackie Estrada. I'm president of Friends of Lulu, and then I also, in my other hat, I'm coordinator of the Eisner Awards, the Will Eisner Comic Industry Awards.
Now, what exactly are the Eisner Awards?
They are the Oscars of the comics industry in that they are given each year for the best material and creators of the previous year. So the best writer, the best artist, the best comic, the best graphic novel. Publishers submit their material for the Eisner Awards. They send it to me, and then we have a judging. We have 5 judges who go through everything that's submitted and come up with the nominations. The judges tend to be people who are retailers, distributors. They're maybe not well known by name in the world, but they are people who are known for their integrity and their knowledge of the comics industry, and they're different every year.
Now, what do you think it means to win an Eisner for a comic?
It's very prestigious because it's very high quality material that gets on the ballot at all. So this is a sign that the industry is saying that you're doing the best stuff that's out there. The ceremony is a gala event in a ballroom at a hotel with
Big show.
Will Eisner does come every year to the ceremony, is the one that physically shakes the hands of the winners and hands them the trophies. So it's a lot of people like to win just so they get a chance to shake Will Eisner's hand. We show all the nominees on a big screen so that you can see when somebody's nominated for best coloring, you can see their
coloring. A lot of cheering for your friends.
Yeah, last year Evan Dorgan had a cheering section, and he won a couple categories for milk and cheese. So
he paid all ththose guys to show up. A buck a pop. What's the best thing about being involved with the Eisner?
I get to see all the cool stuff that somehow doesn't make it into comic shops or doesn't get widely distributed because it gets sent to me to go through to prepare it for the judges. So, I get to see just about everything good that comes out during the year. And I'm sitting there reading it madly saying, oh, this is cool.
Okay, I just have to ask you, I'm just on a club called Friends of Phil. Would you like to double the membership by joining?
Sure.
Well, there you go. Friends of Lulu is now a friend of Phil. Thank you, Jackie.
It can be difficult for a new comic book company to compete with the extensive history of Marvel and DC. What's a company to do? If you don't have a history, make one up.
Okay, I'm here with Kayfabian Nicieza, the head guy over here at Acclaim Comics. Fabian, tell me, what is Stormbreaker?
Operation Stormbreaker is a story set in World War II where we debut for the first time a slew of Golden Age Valiant heroes as they're trying to stop the person who wore the Exo Man-O-War armor back in 1945 who happened to be a Nazi soldier. So they have to stop this guy because he's gotten so out of control that the Germans have asked for help in stopping him.
How are you planning on avoiding continuity problems that companies like Marvel and DC had with Crisis on Infinite Earths and Maximum Clonage?
It's a pretty self-contained universe. We're not wallet busters here at Acclaim Comics. What we're trying to do is a self-contained 8-title universe, and that's very controllable. We're not going all over the place, and we all know pretty much what we're doing and why we're doing it, so we're in good shape.
Now, what exactly is the connection between Operation Stormbreaker and the current-day heroes?
What you'll see is that because Turok is a lineage, eldest born male in the family, there's a Sergeant Turok in World War II, and you'll see him there. You'll see one of the Eternal Warriors, Gilad, he'll be there. We're introducing characters for the first time in Operation Stormbreaker, which may affect what goes on in our current-day books. There's a character called Bravado coming in who disappears mysteriously at the end of the Operation Stormbreaker storyline. We'll see him reappearing real soon in XL Manowar.
Very cool. Kayfabian Nicieza, Stormbreakers. Check them out.
That's right.
In this episode, we play Turok, Dinosaur Hunter for the Nintendo 64. The first shooter game for the Nintendo 64. Let me tell you about this shooter game. You are Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. Strafing around, you strafe left, you strafe right. These are the controls, of course. You can go forward, you can go backward. Look around, because you have to find 4 keys to get you to the next level. You are armed with a huge arsenal of weapons. At first, just a knife and a bow and arrow. But you can find guns, shell casings. You can also find force, life points. This is a great game. You have to find the keys, so look everywhere. That's my advice to you for Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. Look around, because that's the only way you're going to get to the next level. That's the way you're going to find everything. Look around, look around. I love this game. You know what? I give it 4.5 G's out of 5 because I love shooter games, and this one's very original, actually. A very original game. Good storyline, a lot of fun to play. Turok! Dinosaur Hunter! And as I like to my right here, I have my young apprentice, Turoki Doki, Dinosaur Boy, Little Boy Hunter. And one day, Turoki Doki, you shall be a true Turokian Dinosaur Hunter. Now give me that and leave me. Hey, what's this?
Jim Steranko is one of the masterminds behind the Marvel spy organization known as S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick had been tracking Jim for 2 years and had picked up his trail in Paraguay, which eventually led him back to New York. Just try and look him up in the phone book next time, Nick.
Hang up and
All right, folks, I'm here with comic legend Jim Steranko. Jim, it's a pleasure to have you here. Can you tell me a little about how you got into comics?
Well, I really got in as a fan, although I've been reading comics since I was a kid. As a matter of fact, I learned to read by reading comics when I was just a very little kid. And I started at a convention very much like this, where I met a comic pro who saw my work and offered me a job. That was Joe Simon of Harvey Comics. And from there, I went to Marvel.
Ooh, now tell me about some of your work there.
Well, the strip I was probably best known for was Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., although I've done Captain America, the X-Men, and a few other things. But Nick Fury was a kind of James Bond man from Uncle ripoff and very typical of the period.
I looked at your work here, and I noticed your work just ranges from The Shadow to like He-Man to Conan. Can you tell me about that? What's the most out there thing you've worked on?
Well, I think I've probably set a record as the artist who's painted, drawn, or illustrated more fictional heroes than anybody else in the history of the world. From James Bond to Indiana Jones to Conan the Barbarian, Superman, and so forth. As a matter of fact, there's only a few that I haven't done, like Mickey Mouse and Tarzan, but I'm working on them.
Hey.
The Shadow was a result of an assignment, and I painted about 30 of those covers back in the 70s. Very hot, colorful, action-packed covers. It's like getting paid to learn. That's about the best thing that can happen to you, Nick, right?
Of course. Jim, thanks a lot for being on the show, and we have to have you back.
It's my pleasure. Thanks, Nick.
This just in. Isn't it ironic? A slacker superhero hangs out in Major Bummer, courtesy of those crazy minds behind the mask. DC's where it's at. How's it going, eh? Canadian icon Captain Canuck hits the cover of Time magazine. In stores like now, eh? Otaku alert. Those frisky Gen 13 kids are going manga in Gen 13 bootleg number 8 through 10. Coming soon to a comic store near you.
Will Eisner, Stan Lee, and a few lessons in comic book counterfeiting when we come back.
Hey, what's up, fellow museum goers? I'm Nick here in the land of quid pro quo with Comicopia, my weekly chance to pretend that my opinion makes a difference. First up this week, Tales from the Crypt number 20. This is a reprint of the original EC comics from the 50s. It includes a story of a taxi driver dealing with doubts of his own humanity, because he's a big freaking vampire. Another campy story follows a woman's suspicions of her neighbor's murder. Wasn't that Night Love Lucy episode? The art and story on this book are so nostalgic. While I was reading it, I got all worried about tearing the page and decreasing the value. This is the best 50s experience you can get from a comic. I give it 4 out of 5 Gs on the anti-gravity scale. Next up, Azrael Ash. This book brings together the two characters that Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti are best known for. In this adventure, our heroes team up to track down a serial arsonist, who they find is much more than a regular guy with a pack of matches. As it turns out, there's this whole subplot dealing with revenge, Norse gods, and a, little gray alien kid. The art on this book is amazing, with lots of cameos by DC characters, including a very Frank Miller-esque Batman. The writing is great. It's got a very classic superhero feel to it. The whole style of, look out behind you, Batman, the villain is attacking. This is one of the best superhero crossovers I've read in a while, and I give it 4.5 out of 5 Gs on the anti-gravity scale. Next up,
The Jersey Devil, issue number 2 from South Jersey Rebellion Productions, based after the 300-year-old story about a guy who lives in the woods, thinks he's the Jersey Devil, and through him we retell a lot of the old ghost stories. It's penciled by Dom LaGruda, inked by Don Smith, cover pencils by Tom Hodges, and colors by Kevin Daly. It's an amazing, amazing book. We're having a contest. It's a mystery of who the Jersey Devil is. The contest is in issue 3. We reveal in issue 4. We don't wait around at South Jersey Rebellion Productions. We give you more for your money, quality, more bang for your buck. Get it from South Jersey Rebellion Productions.
Okay, what about rating? What do you give it?
Oh, I give it a 5. It's wonderful. It's the best book I've ever read.
Now, who was it written by?
It was written by Tony DiGirolamo.
Wait,
incredible
Tony,
writer.
Isn't that your name? That's your name, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
So, you reviewed your own comic?
Well,
that's what you're saying.
So?
Is that kind of biased, maybe?
Come on, Nick, I let you use the umbrella.
I'm sorry.
I mean, come on.
That's it for Comicopia
It's
this
the Jersey
week.
Devil.
See you next time.
It's a wonderful comic.
Bye.
Look, I'll sell it right here if you don't believe me. Can I have first bid for the Jersey Devil?
No. To find the comic store in your neighborhood, call Comic Locator.
For your viewing pleasure, the Anti-Gravity Room is proud to present Mr. Comics himself, Stan Lee.
Okay, here we are, talking to comics legend, comic guru, Stan the Man, the legend.
Thank you. Good to see you.
How you doing, Stan?
Well, that depends on how this interview goes. I could make a fool of myself, or it might turn out okay. But with you here, I'm sure it'll be great.
So, Stan, tell me about characters like the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Spider-Man. What was the process in creating those characters?
The Amazing Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk. I love adjectives, Daredevil, the man without fear. I think I originally called them the Uncanny X-Men. The Invincible Iron Man. The Silver Surfer was just the Silver Surfer. I didn't feel he needed an adjective because he was already silver.
He had the power cosmic. I mean, what do you do?
That's right. Once you're cosmic, you don't need anything else. We started with I forgot to mention the Fantastic Four earlier. When we started, that was our first book of the so-called Marvel Universe. We did that, and then the Hulk, and then Spider-Man, and the X-Men, and Daredevil. We had no suspicion that these would turn out to be the world of Marvel, so to speak. But we thought we were kind of lucky that they were selling well, and we were on a roll, and our publisher kept saying to me all the time, hey, they're doing pretty good. Let's do another one. Come up with another one. Let's do some more.
How do you think they've impacted society at all?
I'm a little embarrassed saying this because it sounds self-flattering in a way, and I don't want to sound that way, but I've heard that so many times that I'm so pleased to think that some of these books may have had some sort of a good effect on quite a lot of people.
And now, for your viewing pleasure, the Anti-Gravity Room is proud to present the other Mr. Comics himself, Will Eisner.
Originally,
My first comic strip was done in high school. I did a comic strip for the high school newspaper, and it was popular, and of course gave me a chance to flex my muscles in the area. The Spirit began as a newspaper insert, a Sunday comic book newspaper insert. Spirit was a character which I developed as an adventure detective kind of story character who was really a kind of Scarlet Pimpernel kind of person, wearing a mask and gloves, which I thought was very silly, but the syndicate insisted that he have a costume because costume characters were the thing. So I put a mask on him and gave him gloves, but as far as I was concerned, he was simply a vehicle for me to be able to tell short stories every week. And while I was in the service, I introduced the use of comics as a teaching tool and training manuals. So as you can see, throughout my entire career, comics, this sequential art form has been something that I was wedded to as a medium capable of far more than just pure entertainment. But I'm convinced that the future is mine because everybody at the age of 40 in this country, in the Western Hemisphere, or even a little older, has grown up with comics. And so I reasoned that people who are 40 years old, who have enjoyed comics all their lives, are no longer satisfied with a comic book that deals in simplistic story material. So I feel I guess you might say that I'm a man who built a toll booth in an empty field waiting for the highway to come through. And I hear the bulldozers now. I think it's coming through.
Mailbag and a look at JLA retirement benefits up next.
It's time once again to give the hard-hitting answers to your hard-hitting questions.
Radna Goda writes, why haven't you guys done anything on Conan the Barbarian? He is the world's greatest barbarian. Well, Marvel is launching a new Conan for the 90s. It's not about becoming a king. He is called Conan the Vegetarian, and he's opening one of those brand new vegan restaurants with an oxygen bar. Help!
Amanda Haley and Angela Holmes write, tell Nick to keep dyeing his hair those cool colors. Well, unfortunately I've run out of colors to dye my own hair, so starting next week I'll be dyeing the hair of people I don't know and strange animals I find on the street. Thanks for your letter.
You can write to us at the Anti-Gravity Room.
Wow, those were some of the finest moments in comic history.
You said it, Jamie. See you next time on the Anti-Gravity Room.
I hope you enjoyed our little look at the golden age of comics. Now get your hair cut and stop listening to that devil music. Why, I remember... Oh, that is a shiny one.
A near-fatal accident leaves a young boy stranded between life, death, and a strange new world. Somewhere beyond fantasy and reality, an incredible journey begins. The Odyssey, Sci-Fi Channel next.